And we are live, ladies and gentlemen. It's going to
Woohoo!
Hello.
take a few seconds to actually come through on YouTube, but it should happen any minute now. I'm watching it on the side here.
Cool.
But yeah, ladies and gentlemen, who's your forager? Tim Frost. Welcome to the
Hello.
podcast.
How's it going?
Yay!
Thanks for having me back, man. This is always so much fun talking with you guys. So
Absolutely.
back.
We're super pumped to have you back. The last episode was a really good one. Here, one sec. Let me just double. I just got to make sure. Oh yeah, no, we're coming through. The last episode was a really fun one. We talked about oysters and a bunch of other mushrooms. So just good to have you back now for round 2. Before we get started, real quick, I gotta pull this up because my parents they're actually they're bidding in a 4-H like pig showing. You know what I'm talking about? Like I don't know if they do that in where you are, but like in Montana,
It's an auction.
Yeah, it's an auction basically.
Yeah. Actually, my mom lives really close to a sale barn for livestock. So yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. I'm just putting into chat quick in case there's any issues that people can let us know.
Great.
Yeah, but so they're bidding on it, and they're bidding on it as the Year of Plenty podcast. I don't know if you can see it. How
so
funny is that?
Sign. Yeah.
Bidding by proxy.
Yeah, and they're like wearing the Year of Plenty T-shirts, and I guess the pig. That's funny. The pig they're bidding on is called Tipsy.
Perfect.
I believe it's one of these two. So
nice.
They both look tipsy, so they're both on the
show. Yeah, they do. So I just had to shout it out because they were super excited about it, and I'm super excited about it.
Yeah.
Get to hold up a bunch of Year of Plenty signs, so that's kind of fun.
I need to get me a Year of Plenty swag of some sort.
I know. So actually, we're wearing the new shirts, and I only just really make shirts for us right now. But let me see if I can get it.
Oh, look at that
logo here.
Yeah.
And then let me know if you can read the back.
Foraged food
energy. Yep.
Yeah, I don't know.
That's awesome.
Get it in frame here.
It's got the morel mushrooms there energy. Too.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So I don't have any like for sale yet, but I get a bunch of ideas. So when I make new ones, I will get you some for sure.
Sounds great.
I'll get you one. All right. Well, Tim, let's get into it, man. It's been a while since we talked. So I know you're always out there foraging. We're always out there foraging, and we get to have a lot of cool experiences out there. So I'm just curious how the season has been for you so far. Like, have you had any exciting foraging finds?
Unfortunately, I've been sidelined with a rib injury that's still giving me problems. So for like 3 months now. So unfortunately, I haven't been out a whole lot. But yeah, I get out a little bit every now and again when I feel up to it. But yeah, it's been a real slow foraging year for me, unfortunately, which, I know there's seasons in life where it's more or less busier. So I'm kind of trying to take it in stride, but yeah, it's really hard. And then with the rib injury, it was just like I think it came from being out foraging with a friend of mine. I fell in a really big hole and caught myself. And I think when I did that, it maybe separated some sort of a muscle or something. But yeah, it was one of those, a tree had been blown over, and so it left the hole where the root ball pulled out of it, and then nature had covered up the hole with limbs and sticks.
A hidden trap.
It's like the cartoons, when they lay the trap for the guy and they put all the stuff over the hole and he just walks in. That's what happened to me in real life. And
man.
Yeah, but that's okay. It is what it is. I've foraged a lot in my backyard more this year because of
that's good too.
Yeah, I've been just looking for more stuff in the backyard that I can make use of. And I've actually found quite a bit around here that I've not noticed before. I think it's because I'm normally focusing on going out around other places. So
that's a good lesson right there, honestly. Especially if you have a backyard, like try to learn the plants there. You don't always have to go into the wildest parts of Montana, for example, to find cool stuff and to find food.
Absolutely.
And also, there's a lot of urban foraging opportunity. Plus, if you have a friend who's got land, I'm sure they have something like burdock that they just don't want on their property, that you can get rid of, like take from them, obviously with consent, and make some good food out of it.
Yeah, I actually do have a couple of, I call them neighbors, but they live maybe a quarter mile down the road. One of them owns like 20 acres of woods. The other one owns probably 10 to 15 acres, and they live right across the street from one another. And they both basically told me I could come and go as I please at any time, which is
so
great.
Nice.
But yeah, speaking of burdock, I actually found a big burdock growing back in the back of my property here this year. I found all kinds of stuff, purslane, of course, dandelions, because I don't spray anything. Self-heal, I found that this year. I did not know that was in my backyard. Creeping Charlie. What else have I found? A wild lettuce. Yeah, I found all kinds of stuff that I've never noticed before. The one thing I was looking forward to finding in my backyard this year was morel. I found 3 morels last year, blonde morels, in my backyard that I didn't know. There's a stump that's really low to the ground I didn't really know was there. But they didn't come back this year, so I was disappointed in that. But yeah, a lot of good plant activity going on.
That's so awesome. Cool.
I wish we had a backyard that had morels. That's a dream for sure.
Yep.
Yeah.
We used to. Our front yard used to have a bunch of them, but we moved. Yeah. I don't think our neighbors spray too much to eat anything remotely close by.
That's a bummer. Yeah. Luckily, my neighbors don't, so I'm blessed in that way. I don't have to worry about runoff or anything in the water table, really. So.
Yep.
Yeah. Cool, man. Well, sorry to hear about your injury. I'm happy you didn't break anything.
Me too.
Foraging usually isn't the most dangerous, but hey, you can't. The woods will throw some things at you sometimes, like a hidden trap.
Yeah, I got stuck on a stump the other day. My shoe got stuck, and I have a hole scraped down my leg, whole shebang. So
I think it was from lack of equipment. The year before, I had a really good walking stick that I probably had for 10 years, and I lost it. And so I haven't had a walking stick since. I made one at my local state park, had like a little workshop where you could come in and like make your own walking stick. And I did that, but I haven't had a chance to seal it yet. So I didn't want to use it. And so I didn't take it. And I have a feeling if I were using my walking stick, I would have found the hole without using my body to find the hole. It probably would have been a lot less painful for me in the future. However, that is nothing I can change now. But yeah, definitely making sure to get that walking stick ready to go and take it in with me.
Yeah, I need to get myself one of those. So is there like any edible plant or mushroom species you're like still hoping to get into this year? Maybe one that's even new for you?
Yeah, there are several that are kind of on my bucket list I've never been able to find in my area, but I know they're around. Hen of the Woods maitake, which is kind of a little bit in the future. I have yet to find that here. Old Man of the Woods. I've always wanted to see one of those.
Those look wild.
I know, aren't they crazy?
A picture of those,
I don't think I've ever seen one.
They're really cool. They look like a goth mushroom.
Yeah.
Love it.
That's the best way I can describe it. But I haven't really dug into them, so I don't know if they're edible, if they're not. But they just look really cool. And a friend of mine actually found them at the state park. Yeah, there you go.
Sweet.
Super interesting.
Very, very interesting looking. So I've always wanted to find one of those, but I have yet to. Another one I would like to find more of is Laetoporus cincinnatus, which is the lighter colored white pored chicken of the woods. I found a little bit of it 2 years ago, but somebody beat me to it, and basically I just got the scraps that they left behind. So I've never really found one that's new that hasn't been disturbed yet. So those are always on my radar. So always on
Hen of the Woods is a huge, like one of my absolute favorite mushrooms to go after. They kind of like chicken. You can just find huge specimens. I remember my buddy like once in Wisconsin just brought back a giant one, and they freeze relatively well, if I remember correctly. Like I froze some of them, and they're just so tasty, like a really good earthy, nutty flavor. Definitely one of my top 3 mushrooms of all time. And sadly, we don't have any oaks out here, so can't really get them. Can't really get them, unfortunately.
That's a bummer. You don't have oaks in Montana?
No, like almost none. We got aspen and cottonwood for deciduous and some willows and stuff, but like mostly just the other just coniferous trees out here. So yeah, they have cool stuff too that they bring with them, like pine nuts and stuff I want to explore still. So that's pretty cool. Those are all species that I wish I could get out here. For me right now, one I'm trying to still really get after this year is the have you heard of the arrowleaf balsam root?
I've never heard of that. No.
They're so pretty.
It's a plant out here that just covers like entire meadows and hillsides for hundreds of yards. And I'm trying to get the seeds. So I actually just collected some the other day, and I haven't done anything with them yet, but I'm trying to get like enough seeds and then try to do something with them. I read that people used to like make them into almost like a kind of like a sunflower butter type, puree. I'm going to call it. And I don't know though, the seeds I just found there, this is the first year I'm going after the seeds. They're so small and they don't really look like sunflower seeds. That's not what I was expecting. But yeah, that's a fun one I'm trying to get after. So there's some sort of breaking news in the foraging world though that I wanted to just touch on real quick. And I don't know if you heard about this study with the golden oysters. Did you read into that at all? Have you seen that?
I did. I follow Alan Burgo on pretty much every social media platform that he's on. And so I saw that a few days ago from him. I guess he did an interview with the New York Times about that. That the golden oysters, I have not found them here. And I know they are everywhere around here. I know several people that have found them, but I've yet to find them myself. But they are prolific, man. I hear when you see them, it's just usually huge flushes. It's not just a little cluster here or there, but they just dominate wherever they grow.
Let me just share the study here, this article I found. I didn't see the Alan Burgo one. Oh, I don't know what just happened. Oh, it rerouted me to a Toyota ad. Great. Here we go. Oh, God.
Not a sponsor.
Trick you. I can't exit out of this. Well, so here's an article in phys.org from the University of Wisconsin-Madison, who I believe the scientists who did this study are there, and I know they're very active with mycology. I went to the school next, like really close to it, and both schools are like in Wisconsin, like really a lot of really good mycologists that are there. But I just wanted to real quick go over some of these study takeaways because golden oysters is one of my favorites, and it is invasive, and I've always wondered like what that's going to do to the environment out here in the US, So, and this study kind of looked into that, and some of the takeaways were that golden oyster mushrooms are displacing other fungal species, decreasing biodiversity. Trees where golden oyster mushrooms were detected hosted about half as much diversity of fungal species as trees where the golden oyster mushrooms were not detected. Loss of native fungal diversity could have implications for the rate of decomposition and carbon storage capacity in forests. It could also deplete fungal species with rich potential for pharmaceutical development. And then they go on to say that with the way the climate modeling is going, it's predicted to spread to even more places to the US. And there's actually, let me share this tab quick. So they had this, can you guys see that graph?
Yep.
They had this in the study, and it's kind of just showing, here's kind of where they concentrated right now in the US, those golden oysters, and they're expected to spread a lot more. They're not over here in Montana yet.
Yeah, I've never seen one.
We'll kind of see what happens there. I mean, I really like them, but also I don't want them to decrease some of the other mushroom species out
I'd
there.
like them for farming, that'd be nice. Yeah. Get tons of oysters.
And that's where they came from my understanding. They were a species that originated in Asia for cultivation, and it escaped captivity. So that's kind of how they got their start in spreading around.
Gotcha.
So there are a lot of places that will sell the golden oyster, like fruiting blocks and stuff like that. But that just kind of helps to spread that around. But at this point, it's kind of I don't think there's a way to stop it necessarily, just because, just like with other things, not just plants, but bugs and other animals, when they're introduced into an environment that they're not originally from, they don't have a lot of the same things that feed on them and
diseases, predators.
The ecosystem like gets disrupted, and they have no way of really stopping it. So it's unfortunate, but I'm sure they will be in Montana fairly soon at some point. But
I guess it's a double-edged sword. It's nice that they're here, but also it's not so nice that they're here.
I was about to say that, because like on the one hand, I'm not like an enemy of invasive species at all. I just can't be, because I like to eat too many of them. Like there's so many plants I forage that are invasive, but I also understand that on the other hand, this could potentially be bad. And I've never really learned about it in terms of like fungal diversity, like how serious of an impact does this have? And are there a lot of other funguses that outcompete, that are invasive and outcompete some of the more native species that we like to forage for? I don't know. So we'll just have to see, I guess. But I don't think there's any stop. Like they're not going to slow down at all.
Yeah,
it seems
unfortunately not. But as you said, there's so many that we can take advantage of by eating, using for medicine if it's plants or whatever. I do that very thing with a lot of invasive species as well. That's speaking of foraging plants, same there as the goat, as we all know. If you have a different opinion, then that's fine. That you're wrong. It's okay. But Sam always talks about, you harvest out of the abundance that you see around you. So if I know that something is an invasive species, garlic mustard, for example, Pleurotus citrinopileuatus, or golden oyster, whatever that is, I take as much as I want. I don't worry about the 1/3 rule or whatever, because you are helping the environment by taking out as much as you possibly can.
Yeah.
When it comes to garlic mustard, it is all over the state park that I walk and frequent. And so whenever I'm walking, I'll just pull it and just take it with me and dispose of it, even if I'm not going to use it, because it's something that's it takes over so easily that, you're not, they even have contests. They'll have groups of people come out at Mound State Park, and they will have a contest to see who can pull the most garlic mustard in a certain amount of time, and they'll weigh it, and it's a whole thing.
It's so fun.
Yeah, so it's fun, and it helps the environment. So
keyword there though was take it home with you, because when I lived in Wisconsin, there were also such contests, and I remember going foraging once in the woods, and there were like all these garlic mustards just piled up or hung in trees, and they already had their seeds on there, and I'm like, guys, they're gonna just keep drying here, and those seeds are gonna drop. Like you didn't help at all.
That happened in the one of the state land parks that we like to forage in. Someone went and pulled a bunch of, I think it was bull thistle. They already had the flower heads on there, and then they all went to seed in the one field because they piled them all up, and there's way more of it this year. So it's like they tried to do something good, but they definitely didn't help.
I'm actually getting ready to, I'm working on my outline for a presentation I'm giving here locally in October for beginning foraging. And I focus a lot on the ID section of my foraging onion that we'll get into later. That's the first layer, is ID. My philosophy is you have to learn what this thing is, whether it's a plant, it's a mushroom, whatever, what it is as an organism, not just what it looks like, not just what it tastes like, not just what it feels like. You can't rely on one sense. You have to understand what it is as an organism. So, for example, for plants, if you know how they reproduce, for example, if you know they reproduce by seed, don't just pull a big handful of them and just lay them on the ground. Yeah, it will kill that plant, but those seeds, you're just helping to spread those around.
Yep.
Those types of things is quite important to take into consideration when you're learning a new species to forage is that you get to know it on more of a level than just a surface, what does it look like kind of level. So yeah, that's super important on both sides of that, being able to take and try to protect what you're doing from invasive species as well.
Yeah, totally. So 1 sec, I think I'm seeing a bit of good lag coming through, and I keep getting this this thing that our connection's a bit unstable. So Lindy, I'm gonna have you come up here.
Okay.
And then we'll just we'll have you we'll drop you from the call quick, but it is still uploading. So I'm just gonna remove you here now quick, and then just.
Do you want me to just bring my headphones?
Yeah, bring your headphones and turn your mic off. Yeah, and don't leave the show yet, but give it like 2 minutes or a minute so you can continue uploading. Then come up here. Okay, but turn your mic off.
Okay,
just leave in like a minute. Leave in a minute here. Okay. All right, I removed her. I don't know. It might be because we've never done it on a Friday, and I think a lot of people in the neighborhood are probably on the streaming right now after work.
Maybe throttling down a little bit due to the traffic. Sure.
So you did just kind of mention, one part of this foraging onion that you wanted to talk about. This kind of almost like the way I understand it, the way you kind of explained it to me last podcast we did. It's almost like sort of like a layered philosophy to foraging. Is that right? Like,
correct.
So can you walk us through kind of the layers and kind of explain how they shape the way you kind of approach foraging? And 1 sec, she's coming now, so let me just unplug you real quick.
Hi, everybody.
Hello.
They won't see you yet.
Oh, no.
It's all good. We got the mic. We got the headphones back. All right, I'm gonna. Yours is still uploading. So let me just change this view so you're in here with me.
Yeah.
Can you hear Lindy pretty well too? If she's sitting right there.
If I'm sitting here.
Yeah, I can hear you.
All right. Cool. Try to speak into the mic as much as possible.
Yeah.
So take us through the foraging onion.
So basically, and I wish I had them done. I've actually hired a local artist that I know to draw these really nicely for me, and hopefully be able to use them in my presentation in October. But they're not finished yet. But basically, it's a 6-layer process of learning about anything that you want to forage. So, and each layer kind of gets a little deeper and deeper into what you're looking at. So, the first layer of the onion, like if you slice an onion, it gets deeper and deeper. The first outside layer is ID. So, there's a lot that falls under the identification layer. We kind of touched on it before. How does it produce? How does it taste? Those types of things. ID. What does it look like in different stages of life? If it's a plant, is it a biennial plant? Is it perennial? Does it spread with rhizomes? Does it spread with seed? Does it spread with both? Those types of things. I would highly recommend that until you can confidently ID something, that you not move on to the further layers, because you want to make sure that you can properly identify those with confidence. Sam Thayer's book, I don't remember I think it was Nature's Garden. He said, if you don't know if you're certain about an identification or not, then you are not certain. So until you can get to that point, then don't move forward with whatever you're looking at, whether it's a plant or a mushroom or whatever. The next layer down is, now that I know how to identify it properly, should I avoid it or should I pursue it? Is it toxic? Then you'll most of the time want to avoid them completely. Sometimes not, however. For example, there's a plant in our area called doll's eyes. I don't know the Latin binomial for it, but it's actually toxic to the touch. So yes, you will want to avoid that plant. However, there are other plants that are toxic that you can prepare in a certain way and they will not be toxic. For example, pokeweed is a good one. Mayapples, that we're going to talk about later. The entire part of that plant is toxic until a certain point when the fruit is not. So those types of things. So you'll decide, do you want to avoid it or pursue it? And when you pursue it, how do I pursue that? The next layer down, the third layer would be, is it edible? Yes or no? That's a pretty easy one. Yes, it is. No, it's not. If it's not, then you can stop there. But if it is, then you can move forward. Layer number 4 is, how do I prepare it? How do I store it? How do I harvest it? So all types of different preparations for, we talked about chicken in the woods last time a lot, even though we talked about oysters, but there's a million different ways you can prepare it. But how do you store that for long-term storage? Luckily, chicken you can freeze. Some mushrooms you can freeze raw, some you can't. You have to par cook them, etc. Some you can dry and reconstitute, and they work fine, like wood ear. So you can kind of go through all of those things. And then the 5th layer is it medicinal / beneficial? So there are some now who would argue that food is medicine, and I agree with that in a way, but sometimes it's specifically medicinal use. I usually use the word beneficial just because some of the social media platforms don't like the M word, so I try to steer away from that, and I say beneficial. But we're on YouTube, so I can say the M word, I think. I don't know. And so the 5th layer is it medicinal or not? And then the 6th layer is, if it is medicinal, the kind of the same thing with, is it edible or not? How do you store it? How do you prepare it? Do you use it for a salve? Do you use it for a tincture? Do you use a hot water extraction? Can you use it for a dual extraction tincture? There's all kinds of different ways to use something medicinally. And so those are basically the 6 layers of an onion of foraging. And you can basically go through that onion with everything, whether it's a mushroom, it's a plant, a tree, whatever. And so that's why there's always something new to learn, because you can always dig in. Yeah, you may know all 6 layers of something, but you may not know all of the ways that can be prepared medicinally or for food or whatever. So there's always something new to learn. And another thing that I like to focus on as much as I can are Latin binomials, just because when you're talking with someone in an environment regarding identification specifically, it's always good to list the binomial so you're talking about the same exact plant on both sides of that conversation.
Right.
But that's kind of a bonus kind of thing. If you're just foraging by yourself and you're out looking for things, you don't necessarily need to know the Latin binomial for that, but it's good to have if you're on a Facebook group, for example, and you're trying to help someone identify something. Because I actually heard someone refer to chicken of the woods as turkey tail one time. And I was like, you can't be any more different than that, actually. Yeah. And so you had to really dig into the binomial there and be like, no, that's not right. And it's in that case, it's not that big of a deal, but sometimes misidentifying something by a common name can be unfortunately fatal. For example, enoki versus deadly Galerina, they look very much similar, the same, but they are very different. One is edible, one is deadly toxic. So,
yeah. Oh man, I really like that. It's almost like a dichotomous key for the approach to foraging.
Yeah. And so I wish I really had the pretty pictures that I hired someone to draw, because you don't want me drawing that. I draw like a 5-year-old. I'm not an artistic person in the least bit of the sense of the word. So I hired someone to do it, and they've shown me a couple of things that so far that they've gotten done, and it looks so awesome. So maybe next time I'm on here, if I have time, I'll show them to you, because I asked for them to be in digital format, but I also asked for them to be physically drawn, so I can actually probably put them up for wall art or something, because I think they'll look so cool. So yeah, it's going to be basically like an onion, but it's going to look like the old anatomy books. I don't know if you've ever seen an old anatomy book before, just the way things are drawn out. That's the way I wanted it to look, kind of that vintage like anatomy book look. So I'm like super excited to see this when it's done.
That's cool. Yeah. I'm happy you found an illustrator for that too. That just makes it that much more special. Yeah. I mean, so for anyone listening right now, this is a great way to kind of go through that onion, those layers. And it's a great approach to foraging. And it kind of a little bit leads me into my next question, because, and this is a question I kind of like to ask foragers that have some years of foraging under their belt. And the question is, what are your maybe your top 3 tips for someone who's like brand spanking new to foraging and kind of wants to get into it quickly? So one could be learn the foraging onion, right? Like kind of go through.
That would be layers. A little self-serving, wouldn't it? But sure, why not?
Not necessarily. I don't think so. I mean, it is.
Okay.
It's a good tool.
It's a great tool you came up with.
Thanks. I appreciate that. Every once in a while, I have a good idea. So I think, and this may not be one of the three because it's a really lame answer, but I would reevaluate what you would think of the word quickly being. Quickly can, in foraging, can lead to some not great consequences just because you're in a hurry to learn something. That doesn't mean you can't learn it efficiently. So if I'm going with that route, I would say get some good references first. I have all 4 of Sam Thager's books on top of many other books that I keep in my library that I reference all the time. Also, join some Facebook groups. We have several in Indiana for mushrooms, especially. I also help run if you're in Indiana, Wild Edible Indiana on Facebook. I help co-run that group with someone else. So they focus on plants and mushrooms there. So there's probably a lot of other plant ID groups that I don't belong to as well. Most of those people are super helpful and happy to help you when you're new and starting out. So I would make use of social media. With that being said, make sure that you have credible people that you're listening to, because there's a lot of people that do that aren't so credible. But for the Midwest area, I got a lot of good information from Adam Harriton, who runs Learn Your Land on YouTube. He's out of Western Pennsylvania, so he's pretty close by. Foraging Kentucky, Savannah Schwartz, who was on not long ago with you guys. I follow her. She's in Kentucky, just south of me. I do follow Pharaoh Foraging as well. He's out of Georgia. He's a little farther south than me. But I try to follow people who are close by. And then I also follow Sam Thayer, obviously. But there's Chaotic Forager, Gabrielle Serberville. She's actually a Hoosier. She was born here in Indiana, but she lives in Virginia or West Virginia now, I think. So I follow her as well. So there's a lot of good people out there with a lot of great content. You just have to make sure and pick them wisely. All of those things can help you learn so much more quickly than walking around, but also don't discount walking around and just looking at things. That's the best way to learn for me is visually. And so when I walk around, and I do this all the time now, even if it's something that I've known for years, whenever I see it, I just run through the Latin binomial in my brain. I run through, preparations for it and stuff like that. It just helps, because if you don't keep that knife sharp, it does get dull. If you don't use it, you lose it, as they say.
So true. The amount of times I have to reread chapters just because, there's just, and then I get that kind of goes into like what you were saying about, just the way I asked a question too about like, how do you do it quickly? There are some things you can to speed that process up. You can do to speed that process up, but you got to come into it realizing that this is going to be a multi-year journey if you want to take it seriously. So yeah, and that a lot of that is going to be like repetition and pattern building, and just getting out there.
Flashcards.
My biggest thing is like just be ready to have to watch a plant like maybe over a 2-year span before you eat it, because you really want to see that plant in all its different life cycles and growth stages to identify correctly even, and kind of learn about all its different edible parts. Yeah.
There's especially biennials look wildly different from year 1 to year 2 most of the time. So yeah, it's good to do that. And also don't be afraid to fail, because you will. That's just part of it. I don't know how many times I've tried to make a specific tincture or something and didn't work out, or I didn't get the ratios right or the measurements right, and so it didn't turn out. Those types of things are just going to come with learning. You can't expect to learn something new like that and be able to do it right the first time every time. It's just not going to happen. So just be prepared to like take a loss on, you found this one lion's mane mushroom. You've been looking for it for 2 years and you find it. You're like, I'm going to make a tincture out of it, and you totally botch it. That stinks. You've looked for this for 2 years, but it's a valuable lesson that you'll remember. So unfortunately, we learn oftentimes through failure.
Totally. Yeah. Just with foraging, you don't want to learn through failure by eating the wrong thing. So
yeah,
correct. Let's again, if you can't ID it properly, don't move forward to the next layer. If you've noticed, edibility is underneath identifying. That is the most important thing you can learn. It builds your search image. You'll hear people refer to search image, and that's just basically your subconscious way of when you see something, how you identify it. A lot of times it kind of gets brought up around morel season a lot, because once your eye gets what that pattern looks like and it locks in, it almost just like it just unlocks this whole other world that you don't see. It's just because your eye has to be trained to pick out those little pits and ridges, and once it sees it, you can pick up on it and just builds that search image over time, and that works for anything. Your brain just remembers that, and so just getting out there, walking around, learning things, looking at things, super helpful.
I think it's like just this evolutionary thing we have, like this primal part of our brain that we have, gained through time, but have almost lost mostly because we just don't have to tap into it anymore in the natural world as much, like we use that part of the brain for other things during our jobs and stuff, but not a lot of people get to go out there and experience that part of the brain the way it's supposed to be with foraging and gathering and stuff like that. So yeah, it's very true.
Speaking kind of new plants that you want to identify, how about chicory?
Let's do
it. Yeah, you're just mentioning biennials. I'm pretty sure chicory is also biennial, right?
Yeah.
Or is it perennial?
Chicory is a perennial.
Perennial. Okay. So, it's one, like both plants we're going to talk about now, I have never really harvested for food, just like seen. So I'm really curious to learn from you today about them.
Awesome.
But tell us about hickory a bit, like, chicory. Like, if you have a story related to it, maybe like when you found it first, or
that scientific name would come in handy there. Yeah, chicory versus hickory.
Right. Latin binomial for chicory is Sicorium intybus, and shagbark hickory is Caria ovata. So
see, totally different.
Yeah. Yes. So chicory, it's probably something that most people have already seen, but they just may not recognize what it is or what it looks like. It grows in very disturbed soils oftentimes. So I live out kind of in the country. It's in the family with dandelions. It's in the Asteraceae family. So it's in dandelions, those types of things. So they have kind of a dandelion-like leaf to it. Yes, as with all Asteraceae family, those are compound flowers. So each one of those petals you see is an actual flower, not just a petal of a flower. So those are called inflorescents, a compound flower. And so they're those beautiful, like bright, kind of light purple, like lilac to periwinkle type color. On occasion, I've actually seen a couple that are white, and I've never said that in public before because I'm like, maybe I'm just crazy and misidentified. But I was reading through when I was prepping for the show a couple weeks ago, and I found it in one of Sam Thayer's books and was reading through, and he actually mentioned sometimes being white flowers. I'm like, well, that's all I need to know. If Sam says it is true. So
yeah, that's one thing though, like that I've noticed too, as I've go down this foraging journey, is a lot of books will talk about flower colors, and then what you see in your environment, in your terroir, for lack of a better term, could be, slight variations of that sometimes.
Yeah. And so the two biggest takeaways from the flowers, kind of the color, because most of the time they are this light purple type color, but compound flowers, which you can't really see, but if you were to bisect that flower head, you would be able to see all the different parts. But also for chicory specifically, it has those little teeth at the end of each of those individual flowers. So that's a big giveaway as well.
Yeah. So yeah, definitely an ester family type flower from what it looks like. Although it does, it's not as apparent as dandelion, for example, or like a wild sunflower or something like that.
Correct.
But you were talking about the leaves earlier. Let me pull up another. Here's maybe a better picture.
Yeah. So the leaves on chicory are usually the stalk. or the stems where the flowers kind of blossom at different times. So that's why you kind of see them for a long time. Is the flowers only last for 24 hours or so.
Oh, really?
But there's so many different flowers on there that they bloom at different times, so they kind of stay there in the visual field for a lot longer. But being in the Asteraceae family, they have the dandelion-like leaves there. But on chicory, basically the leaves are toward the bottom, like the bottom quarter to third of the plant has most of the leaves, and the stalks have very little to none. They look rather similar. They have the toothed leaves. Oftentimes, chicory has that red midrib, versus dandelion does not have the red midrib.
Right.
So that's an identifying feature. And if you can zoom in on that picture, I tried to get it as best as I could, the close-up of the leaves.
This one?
Yeah, they always have hairs on the midrib and underside, the erect hairs on the bottom side of the leaves.
That's similar to wild lettuce, right?
Wild lettuce does have hairs on the midrib, but wild lettuce, if I learned this from foraging not long ago, wild lettuce looks in many ways like chicory leaves, but if you were to cut it crossways and to see a cross section of the midrib, on most wild lettuce, it's triangular shaped, whereas this is usually like half moon shaped or something. So wild lettuce actually has a triangular shaped midrib, but yes, they do have hair on them.
Yeah, I think they call it keeled, and so I've read about that too. Because I've been looking into the lettuce more because I see it all over the place here.
Awesome. Yeah, there's a picture right there of kind of I just took a picture. It's just in one of the country roads. It just kind of grows along all kinds of country roads. It's a kind of a prairie pasture residing plant, so you'll see them all the time out in fields and such like that. And of course, those are not ones you'll want to harvest because there's a lot of runoff of chemicals from the fields that are sprayed around, and also if it's in an animal pasture, the byproducts of animals are there as well. So it's kind of, sometimes it's so plentiful, but yet it's hard to find places to actually take it from that's not environmentally friendly.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah. It's a cool plant though. And, you kind of mentioned it kind of looks like dandelion, but are there any key factors that come to mind that's separated from dandelion?
Yeah. Well, dandelion are, usually, maybe a foot or so tall. These get about 3 feet tall. The purplish blue flowers versus the bright yellow flowers for dandelion. The red midrib on the leaf is a key identifier. Dandelion will not have the red midrib as well. Those are probably the big ones.
Also, I don't think dandelion has the line of hairs on the mid.
It does not have hair on the bottom. That's correct. But also, just it looks more like almost shrub-like, if you like the picture that I took of it just kind of growing on the side of the road. Basically hairless branches with these little flowers kind of sprinkled around. They almost look like someone made a tree and forgot to put leaves on it. It's just weird looking. Dandelion it's got one, it's got flower stalks, but there's one flower per stalk, and it's at the very end on the top, kind of sits on top. Whereas these are just kind of sprinkled all over the branch, but there are very little to no leaves there. So
is there any milky substance when you cut the leaves?
Yes, it does exude a latex. From what I've read, it's most of the time quite what's the word, runnier than most latex. It's not very viscous. It's kind of a thinner latex that it exudes. The leaves are edible, just like dandelion greens are edible, but it has a very, very bitter taste, way more than dandelions do. So keep that in mind when you're harvesting, because if you harvest dandelion greens before, that's a dandelion, that's when they're the best. But probably the same thing for chicory. You probably want to, the longer it goes into the season, the more bitter it gets. But even in the early stages, there's a lot of bitter in that stuff. So if you put it in a salad or something, do it rather sparsely, because I think you'll regret otherwise having a whole mouthful of chicory leaves.
Yeah. So I would say probably where you might confuse it with dandelion the most is in the basil rosette stage, in the earlier in the year. With chicory, since it's a perennial, well, I guess dandelion's a perennial too, huh? Dude, does it look? It looks a lot like the dandelion once, like before the flower stalk comes up and everything, right?
Yeah, the basil rosettes look similar, but also in that stage is probably easier to look at the bottom of the leaves for the hair underneath, as well as the red midrib, because that won't be on a dandelion. So those are the two big things that I would point out at the basil rosette stage.
Gotcha.
Because the toothed leaves look rather similar, so I wouldn't go with that.
Yeah. So, what other parts or what parts of the plants do you like to use for food?
It's the leaves and the roots are basically the only two that I know of. The roots are well, if you get the larger ones that have been around several years, the root can be quite large. So it just depends on how old the plant is that you dig up, but it's like a taproot, a large taproot, and you can take that and cut it up into small pieces and dry it, and then you can keep it for as long as you want in a sealed jar until you're ready to roast it, and then you just put it on a single layer in a pan like a cookie sheet, and then put it in the oven on low heat for maybe an hour or two until you kind of start to smell it. It kind of has like a chocolatey type smell to it when you're roasting it. And then once it's roasted, you just take it out, you put it in a coffee grinder or an herb grinder and grind it up, and you can drink it straight as a coffee substitute, as caffeine free. You can do that, or you can do it as like a supplement to coffee. So you can put just a little bit in with your other coffee grounds while you're making your cup of coffee, and do it that way as well. So one of the older common names for the chicory is coffee weed. I found that out when I was doing my research as well. I've never heard it called that before, but it makes sense.
I wonder if it's one that would be good mixed in with dandelion root. There's a dandelion coffee substitute that my grandma gifted to us, and I bet it would be really, really nice together.
Yeah, and I've never looked into the dandelion root coffee. I know that you can do that, but I've never looked into any type of benefits to that. But I have looked into the chicory benefits, and it's been shown to have anti-inflammatory properties. It helps improve bowel function. It's been shown to help control your blood sugar levels. So it's actually a really good plant. It has a lot of beneficial compounds in it. So I'm not sure. I've not really dug into, well, if you mix it with coffee, is any of that negated, or do you have to drink it straight or anything like that? That's another layer of that. Is it edible / medicinal layer that you can always kind of dig further into? Yes, you can make it in coffee, but should you have it straight? Is it okay to mix it? All kinds of things that you can get into. But both of those can be made into a coffee substitute that's caffeine free and tastes relatively similar.
Is it one of those that should be you shouldn't eat it in excess if you're like a pregnant woman or you have other health issues? Do you know?
I do not know about any kind of possible interactions with stages of health or anything like that. So I would always encourage anyone to do their research, even if you don't have any existing medical conditions or any kind of medication you're taking. I always advocate for people to try a small amount first, whether it's a mushroom or a plant, because if it's something that's edible, it doesn't necessarily mean your system will agree with it. So you can eat, like, for example, ringless honey mushrooms. I've cooked those and I made them properly. I boiled them before I cooked them and the whole bit, and still they did not agree with me. And I've yet to eat them again just because it was not pleasant for me. That doesn't mean that it's toxic. It just does mean that my body does not like them. So that's always a possibility with any plant or mushroom, that you may just not get along with it.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, even with store-bought stuff, happens to people all the time.
Peanut butter.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I've never used it for coffee. I've just seen a lot of videos and read a lot about it and been wanting to do it. But, so many things to go after. Just haven't made it a priority. But definitely one to look into for anyone watching or listening right now. It's just in a lot of places in the U.S. I think it's actually, I looked up a map. It's like can be found everywhere, and I think you actually had a pretty cool graphic. Let me pull that up.
Yeah,
where they showed a map too. Let me share that quick. Yeah, so literally in every state in the United States, you can find chicory.
Yep. And that book was published in 1972. So if it was everywhere then, it's definitely everywhere now. Even if there were little pockets here and there, they're probably filled in by now. So that is most likely accurate still.
Yeah. Really cool. Really cool. All right. Well, chicory, definitely one to look into. Another one we wanted to talk about with you is the mayapple.
Mm-hmm.
And this is kind of like a really fun plant that grows in also a good amount of states. I have a distribution map here. I'll pull up quick. And, it seems like one of those kind of exotic type plants that isn't really talked about that much, but can be a really fun hunt, like in the foraging sense, right?
Yeah, it's definitely a sleeper for delicious foraged goods. So I would agree with that.
So yeah, it grows in basically
everywhere but Montana. Yeah.
Half of the U.S. you can get into the Mayapples. It looks like even some parts and further up north, and definitely around the Great Lakes. And tell me like about Mayapples a bit. I'll pull up some of your pictures, but like, why do you get excited about them, and what are they?
Sure. Mayapple, Latin binomial, Podophyllum peltatum, however, potato, right? Peltatum, I don't know. It's a dead language anyway, no one cares. But however you want to say it, it's the same thing. They are a tropical tasting fruit. Here in Indiana, we have a couple of wild fruits that are tropical, one of them being the mayapple, the other being the pawpaw. So we have both of those, and they're both lovely and tasty and yummy trailside nibbles and sweet treats that you can kind of find. There's a little bit of a tie back with morel as well because they grow. I actually have a video on my TikTok and Instagram. I didn't pull it up. I should have pulled it up in ahead of time to put it in the show notes, but maybe I'll send it to you afterwards to put in the show notes for the audio. I did because there's kind of a wives' tale that where you find Mayapples, you'll find morels, like one equals the other, but that's not necessarily true. They just prefer the same soil types, the well-drained, disturbed soil. So a lot of times I have found that Mayapples, there are no morels to be found there. But I've also found a Mayapple growing right next to a morel before. So I've seen it with my own two eyes, but it doesn't mean one equals the other. But they start growing here in Indiana. That's one of the ways that you can tell when it's time to get out and look for morels, when you start to see the Mayapples start to come up and spread their little umbrella looking top there is when you want to start looking for morels to come out. They spread by.
Is it when they look like this?
Yeah, exactly.
iNaturalist too.
Yep, and then so they kind of come up, and then they just open up those big umbrella-like tops, and that's right after they kind of open up is when here in Indiana when you start looking for like black morels, because we have black morels first here. So that's kind of what I do. Sorry about that, not my phone number. So I that's kind of a cue for me to go start looking for morel. But they grow in the same area. They grow in really extensive colonies. When you see one, you see hundreds of them usually. They grow in big clusters because they're spread by rhizome. So they just kind of build these giant communities of Mayapples. And you can usually see them quite a ways off if you know what you're looking for, because they get kind of tall. They probably get almost knee height. They can get pretty tall. And they have those big, large leaves on the top that look like umbrellas. So they're really cool looking plants. They start growing in the spring, but their fruit doesn't actually, they start becoming palatable here, like probably here in about a month or so. well, maybe not even that long, maybe a few.
So we're recording this. It's mid-June right now. So you're saying like August, somewhere in August,
July.
Oh, July. Yeah,
yeah, about August. Yeah, about August.
I was like, what month is it? Hang on.
Also, I mean, it's been hotter than blazes, so maybe it'll be sooner this year. You know, weather always has that effect on things, but yeah, and we'll get into how to identify if it's ripe or not. But once those start to ripen, they're just delicious. I love them.
Yeah. So actually, real quick, Pam put in the chat that the Dandy blend has chicory in it. So I just wanted to blend that.
There you go.
Yeah.
There we go.
I believe that's a type of coffee you can probably buy at the store even.
I would imagine. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's cool. So Mayapples, you were just saying, so they grow in big colonies. The weather might affect it, and that got me thinking because I remember reading about them, and it was said, I think it was in Sam Thayer's book, it was said that drought, weird kind of like dry spans can really have an impact on if the plant's going to produce fruit or not, and also like herbivore pressure. So it seems to be kind of like a bit of a finicky one. Like you can't rely on a good harvest or any harvest year after year.
That's correct. So my first introduction to Mayapples was a video from Learn Your Land that Adam Harrington did, and he talked about it being kind of a rare find for him. Luckily for me, I've been able to find a fair amount over the past couple of years, especially because there are a lot of predation. Turtles like them, deer like them, raccoons like them. So all kinds of animals like them, and they're out there way more than you and I are. So
I'm just imagining a turtle right now trying to
I know. That's what I was
really slowly grab a mayapple.
Right? Yeah. Well, when they're ripe, they typically detach from the little stem they hang from, and so they're usually laying on the ground. So that'll be easy pickings for the turtle. But yeah, they're just an amazing looking plant to begin with. They're just weird looking with the big umbrella shaped leaves, and they only have one flower. And from what I understand, that flower has to be cross pollinated. And if it's cross pollinated, then that flower becomes the one singular fruit on that plant. Each plant only has one fruit. So, yep, there's the flower. Yeah, it's a beautiful little flower. But unless that flower gets cross-pollinated, there is no fruit on that particular plant. So that also makes it rare because there's only one per plant.
But that also, because we were talking to Wild Dryad on here about pawpaws a few weeks ago, and he was talking about hand pollinating them for a similar scenario. So you could do that with the mayapple probably too. Sure. Take a brush and find the male ones, bring those pollen over. Be the pollinator. I love that.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And I have a suspicion that is why they don't get pollinated, is if the weather is not conducive for bees to be out or whatever. If it's drought, I think they kind of stick around the hive or stick closer to the hive. They don't go too far out, so they may not be pollinating the flowers as often. So maybe that is a key, like tie into that drought part. But yeah, they are kind of a treasure in the woods. I'm not sure what phrase Adam Harrington used, but it kind of conveyed rarity and what he was talking about as well. But luckily, I haven't ran into that yet. But that doesn't mean, like I was talking about with this year being so hot, it may not be. Another reason why they're kind of rare is not every plant produces a flower or fruit. I think I sent you pictures of both. So the plants that will have a flower actually have a main stalk, and then it Ys, and then there's two umbrella leaves on the top, and out of that Y, there's a little part like a petiole looking thing comes out, and that's where the flower grows. And so there are also mayapples that only have one like umbrella leaf. It doesn't split, and those typically do not fruit. I've never seen one that have one leaf actually have a fruit on it. I've heard that it can happen, but it's very, very rare. So even if you find mayapples, you may not have and they also grow in with each other. So if you find a whole patch, you'll find some that have double leaves and some that don't. So it's not like you're going to find whole patches that don't have them, but it's just all of that kind of plays into that rarity.
Have you paid attention to kind of where, what parts of the woods maybe the bigger colonies grow that might produce more fruit. Because from what I understand, that the thick, big colonies are the ones that are going to be more productive. Makes sense. There's more plants.
Sure.
Probably a good area with good nutrition for them.
Yeah. They here where I've found most of them are in wooded deciduous forests. Again, they like disturbed, well-drained soil. So wherever you like to hunt for mayapples, that's where I would, or morels, that's where I would look for mayapple as well, and you'll probably find them. They like. I don't think they like full sun. I don't know that off the top of my head, but where I found them out in the, I've never found them kind of out in the middle of a field or anything like that. They're always in a pretty wooded area. So I would say that they probably like partial sun, mostly shade.
I would assume they probably want some light coming through the canopy too, just because, I mean, if I'm just thinking about the plant, they have a big leaf. I'm sure that's meant to capture a lot of sunlight, and probably like producing a fruit, if it's already a kind of a rare thing, is going to require some sunlight.
Yeah, and I think maybe delving into the growth cycle a little bit might speak into that, because they start so early in the year. Like I said, kind of the indicator for morel season is the mayapples are up. And so they kind of start growing way before there's a lot of canopy leaves. So they can photosynthesize a whole lot of sunlight really early on. And so maybe that's the key to them producing more fruit and flowers, is if they're able to get up early enough and get enough energy stored up to actually create that flower before the trees start to bring their leaves out. So maybe that's part of it too. I'm not dug that deep into it, but it's a possibility.
Yeah.
And you said, so how are you telling when they're kind of ready to go, when they're ripe? Just when they fall?
Let me pull up a picture quick of the actual apple.
Oh yeah, that would be helpful.
Yeah, they're about the size of a ping pong ball. They're rather small. But so they start out, they're a green color, like the color of a leaf. There's a bright green color. That is a unripe mayapple that I took a picture of there. They're growing out of the split there, as you can see, off the little umbel looking thing there. So when they are ripe, they turn a really pale, creamy yellow color. They often detach from that little stem that they grow on. They'll just be laying on the ground, but they are also really squishy. Like because basically inside of it, there's not much in there. There's not flesh like there would be an orange or something. It's kind of like a gooey stuff inside. Yeah. And then there's seeds. So basically the seeds are mildly toxic, so you just want to spit those out, and then you just eat the jelly stuff in the middle and the pithy stuff inside. You don't eat the skins as well. The skins can cause some GI distress as well, so don't want to do that. And they often bruise rather easily, like bananas do. So if they've fallen off the plant and they're laying on the ground, you'll most likely see some brown spots on them. And then the smell is another sense that you can use. They have just the most beautiful tropical smell when they're ripe and soft. And Adam Harrington says that they kind of taste like a Starburst, and I don't disagree with that. It's very tropical flavored. I'm terrible at describing smells and tastes, so I'll just stick with Adam's wording on that, and they do taste very fruity and tropical.
That's awesome.
They're delicious. People use them for jams and jellies and stuff like that because there's not a whole lot to them, and you need quite a few. You can also just take your pocket knife and cut one open and just kind of eat it as a trail side nibble as well, or take some home. And they go bad pretty quickly though, so I wouldn't take a whole bunch home if you're just going to like leave them on the counter for a snack, because they decay pretty quickly. But also you can't take them home too early, because if you see them like that in that picture, it was green. If I were to pluck that and take it home, it will never ripen. It has to be almost ripe before you can take them home, and they will, and for them to ripen off of the plant. It's actually kind of a rare thing. And also, since the fruit as well as the rest of the plant is toxic, the only time the fruit is not toxic is when it's ripe. I don't play around, so I wait till they're ripe enough that I know I can take them home ripe. So
yeah,
I don't mess with trying to ripen them on the counter.
Yeah. So real quick, shout out to Mike. He's one of our podcast listeners that always stops in. He said he's out fishing with his dad and nephew and still joined the live. We appreciate you, man.
Wow.
That's awesome.
Mike is the best.
Jealous. I want to be fishing this weekend.
I want to know where Mike's fishing at, where he can stream a YouTube. That's what I want to know.
Yeah.
Yeah,
seriously.
That's awesome.
Ripping lips and watching YouTube. Come on, man. Let's go.
That's like the perfect night.
Just a little bit of chicory up in there, chicory leaf.
Yeah.
So you mentioned a really important point there about Mayapples, the fact that the whole plant is highly toxic. Well, I shouldn't say the whole plant, everything but the fruit, if it's ripe.
Season, yeah.
If it's ripe. Right. So, and then from what I was reading, and I'm talking not from personal experience, just from research right now, but as far as I understand, the even if it's ripe, it could cause some gastrointestinal distress with some people. So going back to what we were talking about earlier, whenever you're eating a new wild plant or mushroom, always start with a little bit. Don't overdo it. See how it does with you.
Yes, that's correct. And also with Mayapples, do not eat the seeds. Do not eat the skins. So I would suspect that some of those people that had those issues either ate some of the seeds and or some of the skin as well, which didn't help their situation.
Yeah.
So how are you processing them to kind of get away from the skin and the seeds?
Yeah, it's a good question.
So you just there's no elegant way to eat a mayapple, I don't think. You just kind of have to just kind of slurp it out, and then just kind of like with your tongue, kind of like when you're eating watermelon. You eat watermelon, you find a seed, you kind of spit it out. That's kind of what you have to do with the mayapple. If you're making jams or jellies, you can put them in a strainer and kind of push them through gently with, a rubber spatula or something like that to separate the seeds out. But you can also eat the pithy inside, because there's the skin, and then there's that almost like an orange, that white kind of pithy stuff that's inside an orange is inside a mayapple. Then inside that is the molten core of the mayapple.
Yeah.
And you can kind of scrape that out with your teeth if you're out in the field, or you can use a spoon or something at home to scrape some of that out as well. But yeah, really it's kind of like eating oysters. You just kind of slop them in there and just. There's really no elegant way to do that. I don't
Chuck them raw.
It's kind of like nature's gusher.
Yeah.
The candies.
There you go. Yes.
I love learning about this, and now pawpaw, now this, how cool is it that we can get these tropical type fruits, even into some of the most northern parts of the US,
that are native.
And
neither one of those
native.
Are invasive. Yeah.
Yeah, and no one really knows about them anymore besides us nerds who like to forage,
Right? Yeah. And that's part of the failure thing. We're trying to relearn skills that were known hundreds and hundreds of years ago that most people have forgotten. And so you have to understand those people did those things day in, day out for survival a lot of times. And so they knew how to do it without a whole lot of, they probably didn't write anything down. It was all just by memory. And so you're going to fail at doing these preparations and stuff sometimes just because it's not something common to our society. It's not something common that's known well. So there may not be a whole lot of resources for you as well. Sometimes you just kind of have to figure it out from what little resources you have. And sometimes that includes them not turning out great sometimes.
Yeah, totally. So I want to real quick, I know you kind of mentioned it, but maybe we can kind of quickly just go over again. Just repetition is good sometimes, even for people listening right now. The ripeness, how do I know if it's ripe? You were mentioning the leathery skin, right? Kind of.
Yeah, like a squishy texture. So when they're not ripe, they're kind of solid feeling. So super pale yellow skin instead of that green color like in the picture that you had. Squishy, smells very pungent tropical smell. And then oftentimes if they're ripe, they're on the ground. So that they'll often have bruising because they bruise very easily. So, and that doesn't mean that they're bad. That just means that they've bruised a little bit. So that just is another indication of ripeness for me. I don't think that if you see one that has some bruising on it, that you can just chalk it up as being past its prime. It's just a little bruise. So I wouldn't let that keep you from it. So yeah, use all your senses. Your touch, squishy. Your nose smells good. Your eyes, the pale yellow, and then obviously if all those match, then the taste will also be delightful. So
if all those match, you get a starburst from nature, which is awesome.
That's right.
It's so cool.
Yeah, absolutely.
Man, so is there anything else about Mayapples you think would be valuable for people to learn about? I know I think the window of harvest can be pretty short, right?
Yeah,
Something
it can be. It
can
be short, kind of depending on weather, of course, just like everything else that we talk about. But and then the predation from deer and turtle and raccoon can also wipe out populations because they're delicious. So I'm sure the animals just gobble them up. They don't have any type of things in their brain that tell them, "Oh, I should probably eat 50 of these. I should, will make me sick." So they just pig out. But
well, and from what I was reading, deer they can eat the stems and leaves and stuff. Like I guess it's not toxic to them.
Yeah, a lot of animals in nature are that way. I mean, for example, slugs can eat Amanita bisporigera, which is the death angel Amanita, and 3 or 4 grams of that is toxic to a human, but they just go to town. Like they don't know any differently. So that's also fascinating to me how some things can be probably nourishing to the slug, but also absolutely toxic to a human being.
Yeah,
the same thing.
It's like rotten meat.
Or, to a vulture or a raccoon.
Yeah.
Or
maybe not for us.
Yeah, exactly. What? Anything else about Mayapple?
Are there any specific recipes that you really like to use them with?
Not really, because they're not. As far as culinarily speaking, I'm first of all, I'm not a very good cook. I'm not a very good cook in the kitchen. Thankfully, my wife is, but there's, from what I understand, there's not a whole lot of diversity in what you can make with them. But that again could be wrong. But it's just basically jams and jellies, from what I understand, type of situation. So there's not, and some people make pie out of it, but you would have to have a whole lot to make enough for pie filling. That it's probably like one of those little personal pies or something. Yeah. I don't know, man. If you had enough to make a whole pie, good night. You'd have a
that would be quite a haul. We'll get into that in a sec, like how much people should expect to be harvesting. But just you talking about the little personal pie just made me think, like almost like a Reese's buttercup, Reese's chocolate cups type. Because like you can make those, we make those ourselves with coconut butter. So like you could probably get that fruit pulp out, and stuff some
there you go.
chocolate cups with it.
See, that'd be so good. The thing I was thinking about is there's a Italian chocolate torte. It's like one of their oldest traditional chocolate torte cake recipes, right? And they put an apricot filling in the middle, so it's 2 cake layers with an apricot filling in the middle, and then on the top with a chocolate glaze. I bet if you put a starburst in there,
it wouldn't be half bad.
So good, and you wouldn't have to use that much of it. You just use a little bit of the jam.
Yeah, I think it's anyone who's more culinarily creative than I could probably find. Anytime you use any type of fruit pulp in a recipe, you could probably substitute it. I don't know that for sure, so I don't want to tell somebody that and then they ruin a whole pie. But I would think that it would be kind of an easy thing to sub out for any type of a fruit pulp type situation.
Yeah, totally. So let's set some expectations for people like us who are getting excited about this starburst flavor you talk about.
Yeah.
But like what are we like looking at going out there, and what's like a normal harvest?
I would, if you find where I go walking, there are just acres and acres of these things, so I can find a lot. I'm talking a couple pounds worth of them, but also the year I found that many, I didn't really harvest that many last year, but the first year I really discovered them. I was like, man, this is the greatest thing ever. So I was just like grabbing them every time. But I was going out a lot at that point. And so I was out there 2 or 3 times a week. And so I was able to really hit that sweet spot of when they were dropping before the animals could get to them. Because you'll also find some that have fallen when you turn them over. There's bugs crawling inside of them. So, I mean, you've got yeah, also on the ground is a way to tell they're ripe, but it's also you got to beat the bugs to them. So, and that's the same thing with mushrooms, as you know. But yeah, I found the first year I really started harvesting them, I probably found 2 or 3 pounds of them in one day. But that's from there are acres and acres of Mayapples where I go. So um, compared to the number of plants I saw, it would probably be quite small. Because, like I said, the ones with only one leaf, it's an anomaly for them to fruit anyway because they don't grow the flower. And then even the ones that flower have to be cross pollinated, and then they still have to make it through all the stages of life and not be eaten. So yeah, it's kind of one of those things. It's depends on how many plants that you see growing around you, but I would expect to find at least a couple out of a good sized colony. I don't know, a 10 by 10 square. If you have a full colony like that, you'd find a handful maybe, if you're lucky. So yeah, there's not going to be an overabundance. There's not going to be just huge amounts of them, but I've seen pretty good amounts come out of a single spot before.
That's awesome. Yeah, so definitely maybe if someone is wanting to get after them and they're scouting for them maybe even early in the season while they're looking for morels, try to find patches that have like acres and acres of them to really return to, make it worth your time. Yeah.
Yep. And when you're out there foraging, just keep an eye out, walk by the patch and just see, because you can spot the fruits, quite early. I will tell you, it's easier if you can come at them from the angle because those leaves are so large. You can only really see the fruits if you're underneath that leaf layer because they're just at the very top. It's like a blanket. You can't really see through it. And so you can take a stick and kind of gently move them around. And you kind of do that when you're looking for morel under there anyway. And you can kind of get an idea as you're going through the foraging seasons. You can see, oh man, there's a whole lot of blossoms in this colony here. So I'll kind of put that in my brain. And then next time you come back, oh man, there's a lot of fruits starting to grow here. They're still doing well. So you can kind of, if you come out more often, you can kind of keep an eye on those patches that are producing better or producing less in that way, just kind of by keeping an eye on it. But yeah, I try and find them they'll grow on hillsides and stuff because they like to disturb soil. And it's really easy to spot the fruits when you're looking uphill from underneath them instead of having to try and move the leaves around with a stick or something. So that's the best way to spot them is from like looking upwards from the bottom of a hill. Or
seems like a good one to take your kids out with.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Let them crawl.
Make them work.
Yeah. They'd have so much fun.
Yeah, absolutely. Train your dog like a truffle dog. It'd be a
what?
dog.
I just saw the coolest thing. It was this guy with this black crow, and he taught the crow how to go out and literally fetch mushrooms for him.
Whoa.
So he like carries around the crow's food, like a dead rat or something. And he goes, okay, where's the mushrooms? And the crow goes, wah! And goes and flies and finds the mushroom, picks it up, brings it back.
I need
a
crow.
Gets it in there. I was like, whoa.
I need a crow now. That's even cooler than a dog.
Yeah, right?
Yeah. That's a whole new level of animal mastery, though. Like, I can barely get my dog to listen to me do anything.
Yeah.
So, I wonder if they did that back then. We just don't know about it.
Probably.
That they were training birds and stuff like
Falcons and stuff.
So that's actually a question I had about the Mayapples because you said they have a pretty good scent, like strong scent. Is it something you can smell when you're going into a patch and like you're walking through the woods?
I've never noticed it. And I think part of it is because how thick the top layer is. Like I said, you can't really see through it because of all the leaves that are overlapping. So maybe that kind of holds the smell down a little bit. I don't know, but I have never noticed it personally. Okay. But that may just be me not paying attention to. But yeah, I've never really noticed that specifically that, it was from a mile away.
I was just thinking because, like, with some citrus fruit, you can really smell them. So
like mint
or mint even. Yeah, those oils in there can be potent. Cool, man. Yeah, definitely. a plant I want to get after. My parents actually have a bunch of it on their property.
Oh,
yeah. I walk past it all the time. I just never took the time to really like get after them when they're ready to harvest. But and that's back in Wisconsin, so we're in Montana now, obviously. So I've never seen a mayapple out here, and from looking at the map, it doesn't seem like they are out here at all. Sadly,
that would explain it.
Yeah, that would explain it. Yeah, when it comes to fruit, we don't. I mean, we have some really good berries that are about to be in season here, so I'm pretty excited about that. We've been getting golden currants. We got a bunch of those, and
the gooseberry.
The gooseberries, yeah, we did gooseberries this year. I've really only like nibbled on those throughout the years, but this year we found a patch and it was producing like crazy.
Yeah,
really.
Oh yeah, we got, and they were like bigger really than big. Like or blueberries, like store-bought blueberry sized, or maybe even a bit bigger than that. So
they were like the organic store-bought blueberry size. The inorganic ones are like a golf ball. Yeah,
so that's something that you said that reminds me. I try to buy organic fruit when I can, and we buy organic bananas, for example. And one time we found these organic bananas, and I'm like, I swear they just didn't label them right, because these things were like boomerangs. They were gigantic. They would dwarf like normal inorganic bananas. And those things were, oh man, they were so good. They were so flavorful. But I had never seen an organic banana, because as you mentioned, most of the time the organic fruits are much smaller, and fruits and vegetables are much smaller than the non-organic varieties. But man, those things were massive, and it was almost comical. I showed a coworker of mine. I was like, "Look at this thing." He was like, "Man, that thing's huge." I'm like, "Can you believe this is supposedly organic?" I don't know. Maybe they just put the band around the banana bunch on the wrong one, but man, those things are huge.
It is crazy. Like the fresh produce side, I don't see as much of a difference. If you go to the frozen produce, like frozen blueberries versus like organic versus non-organic, the frozen ones that are non-organic are just massive. They're so big versus
they're probably
the organic
plastic.
Ones.
Remember, there was like videos going around about those store-bought fruits being like plastic or something. I don't know if that was real or not. Probably not.
Maybe.
Yeah, it's on the internet. It has to be true, right?
Oh yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Well, another reason to go foraging, then you're in control of what you're harvesting and where and when.
Unless AI truly takes over.
AI?
Yeah.
In what way?
And it's in nature.
AI in nature? Yeah. In what way?
Artificially simulated fields of.
Oh my God! Now we're getting deep.
It's coming.
You want the red pill or the blue pill?
Yeah. Maybe both.
Yeah. Literally. Oh man. Sweet. Well, Tim, I know you got a family coming home soon, and we went over everything I wanted to ask. Is there anything else that you wanted to get out there?
No, not really. I appreciate you guys having me on. I always have a blast talking with you guys and sharing. And, that's what this is all about, learning from one another and passing things around. So, I'll try and send you the link to the Mayapple Morel video that I was referencing earlier. So you guys can maybe put that in the show notes or something. But no, I just really appreciate you guys letting me come out and ramble on about things that most people don't care to hear about. So, yeah,
totally, man. I hope we'll see later. I don't think we actually had a real hiccup with the stream. We'll see. Hopefully not. But it's been incredibly fun. Thanks for everyone who's been watching live.
Thank you.
For a while, we had like about 10 people in here. That's exciting. Always getting more. So, where can people find you? How can they follow you online?
Absolutely. So, I'm not on Facebook in a official capacity, except for a personal Facebook, so I don't really use that. But Instagram and TikTok, both are at Hoosier Forager. I also have a small selection of videos on YouTube as well, under my Hoosier Forager YouTube channel. The problem with YouTube is it has to be shot in the opposite. It has to be shot in landscape format and not portrait. Yeah. So I basically have to record 2 videos for everything, because all socials are in portrait mode. So I haven't done a whole lot of videos for YouTube because I want them to be of higher quality. I don't want them. I can upload the other ones, but then it puts the 2 big blocks of black on both sides of the screen, and I don't like that. So I'm going to hopefully shoot more videos to put on YouTube, but there are some there as well. If anyone has any questions, I'm always happy to answer those or help people as well. You can reach out to me through my socials, or you can email me at hoosierforager@gmail.com. I thankfully have unique of enough username to have the same username everywhere. So
yeah,
that's helpful.
Heck yeah. And we'll put all those links in the podcast show notes on the audio side for people that are listening later on. So yeah, it's been an absolute blast, and we hope to have you back for another round.
Absolutely, man. Thanks so much.
All right. Thanks for watching, everyone. We're going to end the stream now.
Bye.
Don't leave yet, though. We'll be right back.